The new legislation on vegetation protection is a set of laws and regulations that aim to conserve and restore the native vegetation of Brazil, which covers forests, savannas, grasslands, and wetlands. The new legislation, formerly known as the Native Vegetation Protection Law, NVPL, was enacted in 2012 and replaced the previous Forest Code of 1965. The main objectives of the NVPL are to balance the environmental, social, and economic interests of the country, promote sustainable rural development and food security, protect biodiversity, water resources, soil quality, and climate stability, respect the cultural diversity and traditional knowledge of indigenous peoples and local communities, foster environmental education and awareness among the population. The main provisions of the NVPL are to define the legal limits of native vegetation on rural properties, such as permanent preservation areas, PPAs, legal reserves, LRs, and areas of restricted use, ARUs. Establish the Environmental Rural Registry, CR, a mandatory online system that records the environmental situation of each rural property. Create the Environmental Regularization Program, PRA, a voluntary mechanism that allows landowners to comply with the NVPL by restoring or compensating their environmental liabilities. Regulate the use and management of native vegetation for economic purposes, such as timber extraction, agroforestry systems, and non-timber forest products. Provide incentives and benefits for landowners who conserve or restore native vegetation beyond their legal obligations. Impose sanctions and penalties for those who violate the NVPL or cause environmental damage. The NVPL is considered a landmark law for environmental governance in Brazil, as it reflects a broad consensus among different sectors of society and incorporates scientific knowledge and technical criteria. However, the NVPL also faces many challenges and controversies regarding its implementation and enforcement, such as the lack of adequate funding, human resources, and technical capacity to monitor and verify the compliance of millions of rural properties, the potential conflicts between federal, state, and municipal norms and competencies regarding native vegetation protection, the uncertainty and variability of the environmental benefits and costs of different restoration and compensation options, the social and economic impacts of the NVPL on small farmers, family agriculture, land reform settlements, and traditional communities, the political pressure and lobbying from some agribusiness groups to weaken or amend some aspects of the NVPL. Therefore, the success of the NVPL depends not only on its legal framework, but also on its effective implementation and enforcement by public authorities, civil society organizations, private sector actors, and rural landowners.